Lindsey, my friend Bill Plaskey, my very close friend, wrote a very scathing column about that basically Pat Hayden should go. Is Pat Hayden going to be a casualty of what's going on with the football coach? Start with a very difficult one for you.
It would seem like things are very up in the air around USC. Obviously, Steve Sarkisian's Pat Hayden's hire. Pat Hayden made the decision after the Salute to Troy incident that Steve would seek treatment. Steve referenced Pat multiple times in the conversations they had during that press conference that day. So, Pat Hayden has to be examined as closely as Steve Sarkisian is on this.
Yeah, Lindsey, there were rumors that Sarkisian had a problem up in Washington. And then after the pep rally, virtually nothing was done. I advocated that he should be suspended. Nothing was done except a slap on the wrist. Did Pat Hayden have any idea what he was getting into by hiring Sarkisian? Do you know?
I don't know. I haven't spoke with Pat directly, but I would know that after the reporting we did for the Times in our story that came out today, that it'd be really hard-pressed for Pat not to know that he hired a coach who certainly enjoyed a lot of adult beverages.
I have never, in your time of covering sports, I have never heard of players or people around a team accusing a coach of showing up for meetings or being on a sideline of a game and being possibly intoxicated during a game or at meetings. Have you ever heard of that before? And B, I mean, let's forget everything else about having alcohol problems, but the magnitude of USC and what it's gone through in not recent years, but over the last 10 years, is this going to be another major damaging blow to the USC football program?
I've certainly heard of coaches who enjoy alcohol. I think it's a common theme in the culture of college football and college football coaching. I will say I've never heard of players who have said that they saw their coach drunk or that they suspected that their coach might have been intoxicated or that their coach reeked of alcohol, in a meeting or at practice. That's unique to what I found here. And as far as USC over the next few years, this is just kind of another mark. But I think, after a long string of marks, including the Lane Kiffin fiasco at the airport, Josh Shaw jumping off a balcony, when he was allegedly trying to get away from police, even though the charges were dropped. It's one thing after the next here over the last few years. And I think that this is one that is really going to stick around for a little while. It has a lingering effect just because of the nature of the situation. This is a head coach. This is an athletic department that wants parents to trust them with their children.
Yeah,
and I think
Lindsey,
that's kind of what we get at.
Yeah, that's a great point, Lindsey, and that's where I was going with my next question. A coach is not just a coach. He is a role model. He is, to many of the kids, a father figure. How much is the administration hearing, if at all, from parents, from kids who are currently on the team, or from kids who have committed but might be rethinking their position now?
We know of one major one that's already spoken out.
Right. There's a young man in Michigan, Dalen Hayes, who actually even signed a financial aid agreement, which is binding for the university, not for Dalen. He has decided to withdraw his commitment. And I know that there have been unhappy parents now around here for quite some time because of the Salute to Troy event. Parents were in attendance, and parents left that event thinking, this is who's in charge of our sons, and there's been a lot of questions. I know some parents were not happy with how that discipline or lack of discipline was handled, so I can only imagine that phones are ringing in Heritage Hall today. Well,
and we addressed it that USC lost all of those what's the word I'm looking for?
Scholarships?
Yeah, scholarships. Pardon me. I went brain dead. Lindsey, pardon me. I'm old. But lost those scholarships. Finally got back. It looked like USC was going to be a legitimate Final Four team this year. There was even conversation about that. I mean, will this have ramifications outside of US? I mean, if indeed the allegations be, would the NCAA even interfere itself in what is basically an internal problem, I guess?
I can't. The NCAA, I think, is really unpredictable. First of all, but I can't see that the NCAA would get itself involved in this. Clearly USC is handling it. This is, to my knowledge, there's no NCAA violation here. So I think it's kind of an internal problem at USC that they're going to have to clean up. As far as the NCAA, I'd be surprised if they show up on campus.
Would you be surprised if Steve ever came back to coach there again?
That would surprise me. I would think that that Steve has probably coached his last game at USC.
Lindsey, that being the case, or if that is the case, I should say, throw a couple, 3 names at us, or are we getting ahead of ourselves here? Because I would imagine the administration still has to figure out how to deal with Pat Hayden, too.
Yeah, I think we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves a little bit. This did happen just 24 hours ago Pat Hayden was addressing the media, kind of figuring this out for the first time. I think this is a tall tree that has to shake out. And before they come up with head coaching names, I think they're going to have to decide how they're going to address the entire athletic department, because people are going to want answers that stem beyond the football coach.
Yeah. Just to finish up, we appreciate your time. That the last coach was fired in the parking lot, if I remember correctly. Is there an institutional problem because the last coach was not looked upon favorably nationally because of things he had done? That would seem to come back to the president of the university.
It would, also. Max Nikias is the president of the university. Pat Hayden is his guy. Pat Hayden is a proud Trojan. So it's as internal as it gets as far as looking into if it's a culture situation. And don't keep in mind that this is all shaking out from the Pete Carroll coaching tree, and USC was going to die trying to recreate what Pete Carroll created here. And I think we all know with what he's doing in Seattle that Pete Carroll's a one-of-a-kind coach. And the more they try to repeat Pete, the worse things tend to get.
Lindsey, really appreciate your time. You have a Twitter handle?
I do. It's at Lindsey Thiry. Creative, huh?
Yeah. Hey, it works. It works well.
Yeah.
Or you can read Lindsey at the LA Times. Lindsey, thanks for your time.
That was outstanding. We appreciate your time.